Greetings collectors and welcome to today's retro game review. If ever there was an overlooked genre in gaming, it's kaiju. You've never heard of it? Well, join me today as I look back at this classic example in today's episode featuring King of the Monsters. Here in the West, we don't really have an exact translation for the word kaiju. For us, the nearest direct translation would be monster. In this case though, the context is typically a monster movie. For the Japanese, Godzilla would be a prime example of this. Really, the genre opens up to any monster movie where the typically oversized monster is causing chaos. By this definition, you could also throw in movies such as King Kong into the mix. These destructive monster movies actually make really great source material for video games. There's all the elements of chaos, destruction, and oversized monsters. It's prime material for a beat-em-up/wrestling mashup. And that's exactly what you get with King of the Monsters. Here you're looking at the Sega Mega Drive edition of the game, although the game did originate from the Neo Geo hardware. Outside of Japan though, the licenses for other consoles broaden the reach of the game. First off, it's worth saying that the game is limited to just 4 playable characters. There's a Godzilla ripoff, a Stone Colossus, Insect Overlord, and an Atomic Aquaman type monster to choose from. It is a small cast of characters, but each one is clearly distinct. The developers were clearly going for that 70s style Japanese feel, and if you've seen a few Godzilla movies in your time, you'll be well versed in the characters that they're trying to imitate. The action plays out in a variety of urban locations. You'll be fighting down on the docks, on the edge of town, and of course in the metropolis itself. The stages are surprisingly interactive. Expect to see jets across your path, vehicles get in your way, and buildings smashed to pieces. At one point the military will even roll out anti-monster machinery. The fights are enclosed within an electrified area, so there's an added element of strategy in either staying away from the fences or trying to throw your opponent into them for added damage. In terms of a fighting system, King of the Monsters is a bit of a mixed bag. You'll have access to punches and kicks, but the real damage will come from the grapples and throws. Grabbing onto your opponent and frantically mashing the pad will see you throw your opponent to the ground. It's at this point you'll want to move in and kick them while they're down, to wear down their health bar. Certain throws will produce a power-up collectible. If you can manage to fill your power bar with these, you'll transform into a more powerful version of your character. Sadly, visually this is just a palette swap, but the extra damage is welcome. Each round will continue until a monster can pin the other and is unable to continue. There's a lot of button mashing involved, but it is satisfying to celebrate over your fallen foe. So, is the game any good? Firstly, the disappointing aspects. With only 4 playable characters and a very limited set of backgrounds, the game does feel very limited in scope. Certainly, the end-to-end experience feels a bit padded out as you fight the same monster more than once. Secondly, I can imagine that the combat system may not stand up so well if you've been playing more modern games recently. The control system is functional, but it's nowhere near as fluid as a traditional fighting game. This does play into the notion of using more strategy though, so it's not all bad. The true test of the game though is whether it's still fun to play today. For a game that's a little limited in scope overall, I had a good time with King of the Monsters. It's a game that you can pick up, play a few rounds, and then go back to your life at the office. It's a game best delivered in short bursts of gameplay, so that the limited scope doesn't outstay its welcome. As a collectible, King of the Monsters isn't particularly well known here in the UK. A PAL Sega Mega Drive copy complete in box will cost you around the £15 mark. For a North American Sega Genesis version, look to pay around the $10 to $15 mark. It's worth noting that King of the Monsters did have a sequel, King of the Monsters 2. Some versions of the game only had 3 selectable characters, and the game took more of a side-scroller beat-em-up approach rather than the one-on-one cage match of the original. I'd very much like to tell you that King of the Monsters is a hidden gem, and in many ways it is. Certainly here in the UK, it's a game that still flies very much under the radar. It does pay tribute to Japanese culture, and it's certainly a fun experience in small bouts of play. Had the series been based on licensed characters, expanded the character roster, and added further combat elements such as a combo system, King of the Monsters may have been a game that would have received decent longevity. Instead, the game does feel quite dated, and it is understandable why it feels a bit stuck in the past. For game collectors, it's a great title to own. It's small, simple, and fun for what it is. For newer gamers discovering this one for the first time, you're going to have to put on your retro gaming hat to understand the appeal. There have certainly been far more relevant beat-em-ups that have followed since King of the Monsters. For the reasonably low collector's price, King of the Monsters is a game worthy of being in your collection, if you have a passion for old school monster madness. Hello again, I hope you enjoyed today's show and thank you for the view. Remember, you can always comment, like, subscribe and find us on the social media sites below. Happy collecting!